values. About a year ago, Joe asked me if I would be willing to serve on his organization's board. Joe is an '81 grad of St. John's and started his career as a youth minister in Our Lady of Grace in Edina, and then launched and went off on his own entrepreneurial journey with a passion around building positive school cultures. And for those of you that can remember back to maybe your elementary, junior high, high school days, did any of you participate in things like the Respect Retreat or the Kindness Retreat? Maybe a Courage Retreat, half a day, day long? Remember that? That was Youth Frontiers in its way that it goes outreaches to schools, helping build positive school communities in classrooms and hallways and lunchrooms all over the nation. They just reached a landmark this year of serving their reaching their millionth student through the many retreats they offer. They do over 700 every year throughout the nation. But what I particularly love about Joe is that he's very reflective and thoughtful about how he has put his organization together and how he thinks about things in a bigger way. And so that's why I'm really delighted that Joe has offered his time today before leaping into some of the other activities with Christopher Howard, by the way, another great speaker tomorrow to go to, but to share his insight and leadership with us. So thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Margaret. Thanks. What I want to do, if I recall back 20, 30 years, 240 class for me was a little bit, So what I'm going to ask, when the music begins, maybe the music won't begin, but when I instruct you to do so, what I'm going to ask is that you stand up, that you find a partner. I'd like you to face your partner so you can move around a little bit, and we're going to do this 3 rounds, so it's not going to be a lot of time. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. So not a whole lot of time, and I'm going to throw out a question to you, and I want, with your dialogue partner, I'd like you to answer the question. So about 30 seconds per person. I might go an extra 5, 10 seconds, depending on how you're doing, more or less. So when the music begins, I'm going to ask you to stand up. So put your stuff down when the music begins. Stand up, find a partner, introduce yourself. Go ahead, find a partner right now. Once you get a partner, I will read off a question. Everyone have a partner? All right. Are there any groups of 3? Any groups of 3? Because we have a, okay, just form a triad. That's 3 people. Dyad is 2, triad is 3. Question is this. What was your favorite, travel back in time, what was your favorite childhood toy? So I want you to travel back about 15 years. What was your favorite childhood toy? You have about 60 seconds, 30 seconds per person. Make sure you know the other person's name. Go. 60 seconds. Thirty seconds remaining. Say goodbye to your partner. Find a new partner. I'd like you to move 1 row forward. If you could move 1 row forward, that would be great. Just start moving around a little bit so you mix up. Find another partner. Shake hands. Introduce yourself. Everyone have a partner? Here is the question. 60 seconds. Describe a specific place. So it might be the bench out by the SAG. It might be a room in your home where you grew up. It might be by some lake that had a special place, but a specific place that you've been able to sit and reflect and unplug. Just sit, reflect, and unplug. Describe with your dialogue partner a specific place that you could sit, reflect, and unplug. Go. 60 seconds. $20. Say goodbye to your partner. Find a new partner. Find a new partner. Find a partner. Find a partner. Raise your hand if you need a partner. You cannot have the same partner more than once. Everyone have a partner? Okay. Question is, who is a leader? Can be someone you know, someone you don't know. Public, private. Who has been a role model to you? Who is a leader? Can be from your community, your family, a team, some public figure that you don't know. Who's been a role model to you? 60 seconds, 30 seconds per person, go. $30 seconds. Okay, say goodbye to your partner. Say goodbye to your partner. If you could not sit in the last 3 rows, that would be great. If you could not sit in the last 3 rows, you can sit anywhere else in the room. Take a seat, please. Take a seat, please. Little tonic sulfa. You got it? Oh, yeah. We just, I want to start out saying we just wasted 7 minutes, as you guys grab a seat, of this class talking. I just want to open up with that statement. We've wasted 7 minutes talking, but I am a strong believer that we as people have got to connect more. And I'm not talking about through Skype or through Facebook. I'm talking about human, real connection where you hear with your senses, you speak. We got to do that more. And that takes time. Took 7 minutes to begin. And time, and this is what I'm going to talk a little bit about, is something we have less and less of. And that's not good. I want to start out by saying I'm honored to be here. This place, St. Benedict's and St. John's, has a really important part in my life. And I'm honored to be up here with a merry band of brothers and sisters. So it's good to be here. And it's good to take time to stop. And I want you to not think of this as a class right now. I want you to think of it as a time to stop everything that is outside of this room. And we're pausing to be with each other. So that's going to be my hope, my thing right now to begin with. We're stopping to be with classmates, with maybe some hallmates, with fellow Johnnies and Bennies, and maybe there's some people here that aren't from St. John's, St. Ben's. It's part of the Benedictine tradition to be with each other, to welcome each other. It's about hospitality. I want to just throw this out right now before I start. We practice hospitality, and we practice respect for all people by listening, by talking. And my hope is that by taking this time in here today is going to highlight, I want to highlight the importance of reflective leadership. That's going to be my theme. And I think reflective leadership is absolutely the key, especially even, it's interesting, right after election. Absolutely the key to some of what ails our country, what ails our organizations, our schools, to kind of shift the moral compass back. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in a small town in the Twin Cities called Edina, Minnesota. I'm not sure if you know of it. EDINA, an acronym. You might know the acronym. Every day I need attention. That's what it means. I grew up in that town. I come from an Irish-Italian family, so I'm half Irish, half Italian. That's what that means. If you're a scientist in here, that's cold fusion. So we're constantly fighting in my house with food fights. My dad is Irish. He's about 6 feet tall. My mom is Italian. She's 4'11". I'm a kind of in-between guy. And everyone in my family's short. My mom is 4'11". My grandma's 3'11". We're just short people. My great-grandma's 11. She's the shortest of all. We're tiny people. I'm so short that when I sit on a curb, my feet dangle. That's kind of my, I'm a tiny guy. I'm my own mini-me. I turned 50 not too long ago, so I'm in my 50s. I'm a little bit older than you. What that means when you someday turn 50, what it will mean is you don't care anymore about stuff. So I basically just start out by saying, I don't care if you don't like what I say, because I'm 50. And it's really freeing, and it's refreshing. Well, actually, I should say this. I do care about things, but I care about different stuff in the last couple of years. I care about different things than I did when I was kind of running around campus here and at St. Ben's. And I want to talk about, during this time with you, is some of the stuff I care about right now. And to start out, this is going to be my opening premise. If we don't take time to be human, civilization will break down. So if we don't take time, what I mean by that, pause, to slow down, to get perspective, to remember, to reflect on things, to be human, and what I mean by being human is to be thoughtful, to feel, to converse like you did a few minutes ago, to be civil, to be human with people. Civilization, our community, our campuses, our high schools, an organization or a company you lead someday will break down. We'll have political extremism. We will have violence. We will have road rage. We will have hatred. We will have bullying, which is what I work with. And that's going to be the premise, this right up here, of the thoughts that I share with you. So be aware of that, on that. And my hope is that just in the few minutes we're together, we have until, is it 6? 10, boom. 3:50, 3:49. I'll end a minute early. Is that okay? It's going to give you some stuff to reflect on, and it's going to give you cause to pause a little bit, just to think about stuff. And I hope you can bring it to your lives here. And I want you to apply it to St. Ben's and St. John's, to your life, to your relationships, to your future vocation someday. And the need for this important of Benedictine values, which is what we are hopefully kind of getting here at St. John's, St. Ben's, is greater than ever. The need for what these two campuses can give us, give you, is greater than ever. And when you go out into the workplace, you will have something that differentiates you from people from the U, people from Harvard, people from Iowa State. You will have something that differentiates you. You will be able to zig as leaders when everyone else is zagging, as that book talks about. It's what's going to differentiate you. And you need to be differentiated when you're interviewing. I start out with a story. It's about, it's from the Lakota Nation. It's about a child that comes to one of the elders in the tribe and says, I want to do good stuff and I want to do bad stuff. Why is that? The human condition. Well, the elder says to the child, well, that's because each of us have two dogs at war. A dog of good and a dog of evil. And they're constantly fighting inside of you. They're constantly fighting for control of your soul. The child says, what dog's going to win? What dog's going to win the battle for my soul? The elder says in their wisdom, the dog that you feed will win. The dog that you feed will win. I have, as Margaret mentioned, I have the privilege of working professionally with young people with an amazing organization named Youth Frontiers. And we're a nonprofit. We are dedicated to working with this millennial generation, which you are part of, to get them to help live lives of character. We do this by doing these day-long retreats. Some of you have been on them. They're kind of MTV meets Aristotle days. There's a lot of loud music. There's stupid games. There are pretty powerful talks at times. Small group stuff. They're designed to get kids to see each other differently. We talk about values. To feed their good dogs. Values like kindness, courage, respect, responsibility. This year we're going to work with about 100,000 high school and junior high students in Minnesota. It's a lot of kids. That's what we're doing every day. These retreats are to make schools better for kids like Jeff. Jeff is an 8th grader at Orono Middle School. School's not a great place for Jeff. Jeff struggles with something called Asperger's syndrome. It's a form of autism. Well, we had just spent a whole day in this big room. It was like a gymnasium. And there are about 200 8th graders from Orono. And we end the day with what we call a campfire, where we get all 200 kids sitting in a big circle, and we put a microphone in the middle of the room, and we ask the kids to talk about what the day meant for them and what they learned on that day. The first kid that got up was Jeff, this kid with Asperger's syndrome. And he walked to the middle of the room, and he picked up the microphone, and he looked at all of his classmates, and he said, why can't all of you just leave me alone? All I want to do is go to school here and be left alone. Just leave me alone. And he put the microphone down. Stays on courage. 8th grade boy, standing up in front of his classmates. Tell them to leave them alone? Well, then some other kids got up to shared other stuff. A little while later, the coolest kid in the school got up. You don't have to work with kids, for 20-some years to know who the coolest kid in the school is. This kid, you could just, boom, tell. He was the way kind of he walked with his hat on. He's kind of he was smoking a cigarette. He's walking. Just kidding. It was a non-smoking school. He didn't. It was just. He walked up. He picked up the microphone. He looked right at Jeff. He said, "Jeff, I'm probably the meanest kid in the school to you. And you've never deserved anything I've ever done to you. And I want to tell you that on this day it stops. The crap that I've been giving you. And I want to tell you I'm sorry." And he put the microphone down. Days on courage. 8th grade boy standing up in front of 200 kids, risking his coolness to apologize. The most unpopular kid in the school. Well, then another boy got up, and another, and another. All told, about 10 boys got up. On this day, it was all boys, but it doesn't always have to be boys if you ever heard of the mean girl syndrome. But on this day, it was all all guys, all apologizing to this boy, Jeff. On that day, that community changed because people paused to be human with each other. They took time to reflect, to be human. And that school was healed a bit, and 2 people's lives were healed, and other people's lives were healed. And everything I learned at St. John's, not everything, except for that night at Sal's, I didn't learn. But most of the stuff I learned up here at St. Ben's and St. John's have really infused in me what Youth Frontiers is about, this organization I lead. Our mission is to change the way young people treat each other. In every hallway, every classroom, every lunch line of every school in America. By talking about character, Benedictine values. We don't use the words Benedictine values, but that's what it is. And the need for this stuff is made clear by examples. About 9 months ago, 10 months ago, you might have remembered reading about or hearing about Phoebe Prince. Remember, did you ever hear about that girl in South Hadley, Massachusetts, from Ireland, the immigrant, who ended up hanging herself because of the incessant, daily tormenting by 9 complete jerks in her school? And if you watch some of the news results, if you were watching it in the news, the day after she had died, the whole school, or most of the school, showed up outside of her mom's house, and they were all kind of holding those little votive candles and kind of a big. This is not meant to make light of what they did, but kind of this kumbaya moment of, oh, we're all here now. And most people were saying, wasn't that cool how these high school kids came together at the? I thought, it pissed me off. Can you edit out "pissed off"? I'm not supposed to say that from the. My mom says don't say "pissed off." I always say, I'm Italian, so I just say that. So I'm watching these kids, hundreds of kids with these candles at night singing. And I thought, where were they when this girl Phoebe needed them? Where was their moral courage then? And maybe if they had been standing up for her versus standing by as she's being made fun of by these 9 kids all the time, they wouldn't have been standing outside her house holding candles. And one of the solutions with our organization is to inspire leaders that have moral courage, to speak out more when character is lacking. And I throw the same thing out to you as future leaders in the business world, or in whatever vocation you choose, to begin practicing it here. When you see it amongst your peers here, it's about being human. It's challenging each other to be leaders. But it takes time to pause, to reflect, to be human. And the problem is we don't do that. We rarely pause anymore. So when I was in school here, when I would walk out to the chapel or go for a run or hang out by the lake on a beautiful fall day, we were unplugged. We did not have wireless. We did not have iPhones to stay connected. We were literally, the only thing, we weren't listening to the Beatles, we were listening to the birds kind of chirping. We didn't have headphones in, we were listening to the wind. It was different. And it's more dangerous today. And I suffer from it. I speak a lot to business executives. And one of the things that I talk about when I'm speaking to business leaders is I say to them, if you are at home with your family having dinner and your cell phone rings and you answer it when you're at the table, you got a problem. You have either hired some really bad people who can't handle anything for 45 minutes when you are with your family, or you think you are way too important. So I have a 5-year-old little girl, Tess. She was voted 7th cutest baby in human history a number of years ago. She's pretty amazing. She's too young for some of you guys, sorry. Stay away from her. I will. When our phone rings, we are already practicing with her. Tess, should we answer the phone? And at 5 years old, she's starting to say no. And then we say, why? And she says, because we are more important. Now, when she is in 9th grade and she's being called by friends, our hope is she can still say that. It's about unplugging when you need to unplug. And it's about being plugged in when you need to plug in. I love tech. I got my iPad, my iPhone 4. I mean, I'm just always, But it's about when do you unplug and reflect and think and pause. Because if you don't, you're becoming a dangerous person. So a leader's call is to slow down. So my first challenge in leadership is to slow down. My dad, when I was growing up, when he was in our front yard and cars would zip down the street, he would yell out, "Slow down!" I don't know if you ever heard that from one of your parents yelling at a car. So I'm doing that now. I'm raking and in the fall and some cars zip. I'm slowing down. I'm becoming like my dad. My dad is now 83. He is slowly losing his memory to Alzheimer's. It's an awful, awful thing if you've been touched by a grandparent or maybe a parent with that. When I'm with him, he's forcing me to slow down and just sit with him. Because we don't do this anymore. We don't talk much anymore. And his dis-ease, his disease, is causing me to pause more. If you've ever had an injury and your leg has been broken and you're in a cast, you are forced to slow down, and that's good. Because when we move so fast, we forget what is important. That is a problem. We are too busy. We're moving too fast. A year ago, Toyota was in the news because of remember the accelerator sticking problem? That's our problem. We have our accelerator stuck. And you will leave here, and for the most part, you might be running to the next thing you're doing and not realizing what a beautiful day out it is. Speed kills. As I was racing up here because I was a little late coming up here. And I was driving like 130, so I'm rushing to get up here. And speed can kill in driving. It also can kill relationships that are important to you. So when I'm talking to high school kids, I will tell them, if you move too fast sexually, you have a good chance of killing the potential relationship. If you move too fast emotionally, you can drive people, you can kill the relationship. It's the same thing that maybe we struggle with back home. We run out the front door so fast, checking our texts or emails, that we even forget to say to people that we're close to, I love you. Or even at a table in the refectory with your friends, that we run away without even saying, hey, thanks for sitting together. Or have a good day. It can kill thoughtful thinking in a boardroom. A lot of the problems that BP had with the oil spill was speedy thinking in the boardroom, not being reflective. It's the same thing that Wells Fargo and other banks are experiencing now when they were so fast to foreclose on mortgages, if you've been reading about that. That they have caused great problems with it. And the same thing that happens with me at work when I move too fast. And I don't pause and think. It's when we want to move too fast and we start cheating on exams, or we start fudging our expense reports, or we cut corners on building a safe oil well cap in the Gulf. We compromise our integrity and what we know is right. Here's a question I throw at you. Are you moving so fast that you're forgetting who and what is important to you? Kids are forgetting that I work with in high school. The Josephson Institute did a major research on values in kids and teenagers. It found out that 98% of teenagers hold honesty as one of their highest values. It's pretty good news. The same study says that 65% of kids are cheating on important exams. 35% of kids have stolen something from a store in the last year. You value honesty? Oh, you bet I do. One of my highest values. Cheating on your math test? Well, yeah, I want to get a good grade. Are you reflecting on what that will do to your look in the mirror. If you're not feeling good about yourself, look in the mirror. Don't cry to me. You value honesty? You better do. One of my highest values. I hate hypocrites. All these adults, and I read about them all the time. I hate hypocrites. Oh, that's cool. You sign a pledge not to drink during the sports season? Oh, yeah, Minnesota State High School League rule. Yeah, I'm in 10th grade. If I drink, I sign this pledge. I will not drink, and I have to take a suspension. You drinking? Yeah, just on weekends. I'm not telling you got to value honesty, but if you value it, don't forget it. So now we think, okay, well, we get to college or grad school, and that we become smarter. Grad school statistics, if you're going to go on to grad school, 56% of all MBA students, these are the future Wall Street workers, admit to cheating in grad school. 56%, best and the brightest. 45% of lawyers, those in law school, admit to cheating, future guardians of the law. 48% of education, grad school students, future teachers, admit to cheating. 52% of engineering students in grad school, best and the brightest, admit to cheating, future bridge builders. One of the keys to differentiate good and wise leadership in this chaotic, crazy world right now is to slow down and listen to what you know is right. And if you move too fast, you will forget. You'll forget. If you don't pause and reflect, you will be a dangerous leader. You'll be dangerous in relationships. You will be dangerous in the boardroom. You will be dangerous as an employee. Are you being present to people? The Benedictine rule of St. Benedict, the opening line in the book, or one of the opening lines, is listen with the ear of your heart. Are you pausing to listen? That is one of the things that will differentiate you in your future job interviews. Claim it. Tell those that are you interviewing with that one of your gifts is you listen with the ear of your heart, however you want to language it. But if you move too fast, you can't do that. You can't be present to people that you're with. So Jane and I, my wife, before we had our little girl Tess, we'd go on like 3 dates a week. We just love to go out to restaurants. Now that Tess is in our life, we go on like 3 dates a year. You know, we just don't get out much anymore. But one of our few dates, we were out at a restaurant eating dinner, and I was watching this high school couple on a date. And I kind of stare at high school kids. You know the movie The Sixth Sense? You remember that movie? You know, I see dead people. For me, it's I see teenagers. I stare at teenagers when I see them in restaurants. And there's this couple on a date, and they were kind of talking, but they weren't talking. And I was looking at them, and Jane's like, what are you looking at? I'm looking at these kids. She goes, don't stare at them. I go, I can't. I'm a teenage voyeur. You know, she goes, don't be a voyeur. I just stare at teenagers. I'm watching this couple the whole time. The girl was sitting yapping on her cell phone the entire date while they were sitting at this table. And this poor boy is kind of sitting, eating his curds and whey. You know, he's like, I wanted to tiptoe up to this kid and go, hey, find another date. It's a bad omen for the future. Get out of there. It's the lack of being present to people. Watch people on campus when they're walking with someone on how many people either have earphones in or are on the phone while they're walking with someone. And there's times you got to do that. But watch how often it happens. What we are subtly or not so subtly saying to people is, you are not as important as the other person that I'm trying to communicate with. And it's a very subtle form of disrespect that creeps into our lives. It's very different than the in-your-face kind of stuff we hear on the radio or on the TV. But it's just as real. There's a word for it. It's called rude. And people aren't talking about it anymore. When I was speaking to some grad students at St. Thomas, and The biggest complaint in my presentation was they thought that I was out of line, saying it was rude when you're not being present to someone. It was fascinating to me. So perhaps reflect, whether you think it's rude or not, reflect whether or not you are being present to someone when you're with someone. Last week, I'm at work, and we were having a crazy day. I mean, it was one of these just chaotic, frantic days. We had 7 teams going out doing retreats, and the emails were coming in and the phone calls, and it was just chaos. And I was running through the back hall because I had to get to my desk with something. I was in that kind of, and there was a coworker there who was in tears about something. Am I able to stop and say, this right now is the most important time for me, to be with you? What's going on? Amidst all the other stuff happening. When I'm at my desk going crazy on emails or whatever, and someone stops in my office, am I able to pause the email and shut the computer? Or when the phone rings, am I doing this? Am I able to be present to people? Or maybe it's in a personal moment where someone is with you and their phone rings and they don't answer it because you're more important. They let it ring. Or maybe you're with someone and you know they are suffering. Maybe they have an illness. Maybe they have a family member that is going through crisis or is dying. Are you able to be with them? It's about unsticking our accelerator. Gandhi says there is more to life than increasing its speed. A new concept on what a leader can be. A leader's job is to create community for the common good. It's the CEO, it's the principal of a high school, it's the president of one of the 2 colleges, the captain of a team, the pastor of a church, the new governor, whoever it will be. Are they able to create community for the common good? And it's not about vision. So much we hear about leadership is about vision. It might be a little bit about vision. But vision is for visionaries. It's not about innovation. That's for innovators. It's not about management. That's for managers. It's not necessarily about the creation of wealth. What I'm believing is as you enter into the workplace, what is needed more today than 10 years ago? So if I was here 10 years ago, I would not have said this. But what is needed from leaders today is about creating community for the common good. At Youth Frontiers, one of the key things that we now do as a staff is once a month we take a half-day retreat. This costs thousands and thousands of dollars for a nonprofit if you add up the time with everyone's salaries and the hours it takes. We go off-site and we talk not about business. We talk about each other. We talk about why we do what we're doing, and we remember our vision. The theme of it is to remember. It's about creating our community. It's the foundation. It's the absolute foundation of who we are. I want to talk about 2 things, and then I want to open up for a couple of thoughts or questions. Well, first of all, is there a thought or question so far? Yeah.
schedule something that's almost guaranteed that
Yep.
I'm going to have a call. And it's not that I'm trying to be rude to my family doing that, but my call is to help and be present for that.
Yep. So take what I'm taking in context. I am sharing a perspective, and I could probably give an exact opposite talk. So I want you to be aware of this. This is not the truth. This is a perspective that I am wrestling and struggling with right now in my own life, and what I see is needed out there. So I'm in the car with Tess, my little 5-year-old. 2 years ago, when she was 3 and she was able to talk, I made a deal with her because she would say, "Daddy, get off the phone." You know, she kind of in her 3-year-old language. So we made an agreement that if I ever needed to answer the phone, I would first ask her. And if she said no, and I knew I had to take it, you never really have to take something. But I would say, "Tessie, on this case, I got to. Can I do something later for you?" And I have yet to ever say no. But I am always very conscious. I'm saying, "Tessie, the phone is ringing." Now, 90% of the time, I don't have to answer it. But 10% of the time, I need to because of my other responsibilities in life. I'll look at it, I'm like, "Hey, Tess, do you mind if I take this? This is an important call. And I won't be on for very long." But I'm acknowledging to her. I'm at the dinner table. Jane yesterday, Tess and I her grandma's in the hospital, and she called. Well, Tess and I were having dinner, just she and I. My wife Jane called during dinner, and I knew she was going to call. I said, "Tess, I think we need to answer this. This is going to be Mom." And she's like, "Okay." So it's not being it's not taking some rule and being ruled by the rule, not becoming a slave to a guideline. But we have swung so far this way. Watch how, for me, when you're with someone, the phone rings, it's like auto. Or I don't even pause to go with the person I'm saying. I don't even say "excuse me" anymore to people. And maybe for you, it's just starting to say, if you're in the habit of just automatically, just starting to say, "excuse me." I'll be in a meeting. I was in an interview. Someone was interviewing with our company, college grad. Their phone rang. They didn't even say "excuse." They just picked it up and started talking. I was like, it was fascinating. I mean, it was fascinating to me. So maybe it's just saying, "excuse me." Does that make sense? We're always going to have other responsibilities pulling at us. But it's about being conscious. If you answer it, make sure it's not automatic. One of the things that my wife Jane and I are practicing this week and last week, which is fascinating, we are just using cash. We've put away our credit cards, and I never use cash. I just, it's just quick. But I never am conscious about what I'm spending or what so now I'm at Target the other day. I'm like, God, I can't remember how to. This is a $20 bill. Cool. I didn't know they changed them. I'm like, so, but I'm being conscious about what I'm doing. Practice order. Another thought, question, comment. Yeah. Wrong question. Next question. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. I just wanted that on film. I've always wanted to do that. I've never done that before. Sorry. You're the example. I just wanted to.
In your line of work, what age group animals is junior high, high school?
Yeah. That's a fascinating question. Have you heard of Kohlberg's theory of moral development? He's a psychologist that created theories of moral development. Elementary school kids make decisions. They're nice to you because you'll be nice back to them. In junior high or middle school, they'll be nice because it's good for the group. That's what motivates them. When you get to high school, you start to morally develop more, and you are good to someone because it hopefully is just the right thing to do. So to answer your question, our retreats are kind of designed around that. So with middle schools, what we find it impacts more is we have a greater impact on the group. With high school, we find it has a greater impact, not necessarily on the group, but on their own reflective processing. So it kind of, I can't say, oh, it's more powerful here or there. The 8th and 9th grade is such a transitional year that is probably the most emotively impactful. I think people make typically decisions because of their emotions, not their head. As they get older, though, they can start to theorize a little bit more. Maybe it's just they're forgetting their emotions more and going up here more. So I'm going to have to think more on that question, but that's how I would answer that. Yeah. Interesting question. In essence, can you accelerate it with being deliberate? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know enough about Kohlberg's moral development. I do think that you can develop and create an environment in a workplace, in a family, on a college campus that creates empathy. So one of the things that we as an organization do, we go into a school and we try to create the environment that allows for empathy to grow. And so what Jane and I are doing in our home, we're being very deliberate about creating a spirit of empathy in the house. Now, at 5, developmentally, can she quite get it? No, but if we can start creating that conversation when she's 7 or 8, there's going to be a little bit like the seeds are going to have been planted or the soil has been tilled. So I do think you can, but make it more fertile, the soil more fertile for that. I don't think you can create, my experience, my gut is you can't create a 5-year-old Gandhi. No. But you could create the family, the school environment where there's more empathy when they're a junior in high school. I've seen different schools that have very different cultures. I want to move to 2 things that I believe are absolutely needed for leaders. And my hope is that you can take some of this. It isn't stuff that I really got until I was 45 years old. So getting to your question, maybe Jung would say you don't start to go inside until you're 38 years old. He uses that age. I think it's 38. The first 38 years of your life are about outward stuff. The next 38 are inward stuff. But I think you can start tilling that soil. So the first thing I want to talk about is your shadow. When you pause and when you reflect, and this is about leadership. And if leaders don't have these 2 things that I'm going to talk about, they're dangerous leaders. And if you are interviewing for a company, if you are in a relationship with someone, and they don't have these 2 things, be aware. I'm not saying run from it, just be aware. And be wary. When you pause and you reflect, you are going to open up the possibility of being more self-aware. And what I mean by the shadow is knowing that you're human, that you're not perfect. We all have weaknesses. And so it's being present in those weaknesses. Healthy leaders in the workplace, in relationship, however, are aware that they have weaknesses. And they don't try to hide them. And they don't try to rationalize them away. And I believe it's most important in this is to be open with them. So at the workplace where I'm leading my organization, if you ask any of our staff what my weaknesses are, they will go boom, 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 boom. Because what I'm communicating, one is I'm human, and the second thing I'm communicating is I need you, and you, and you. Because from a theological standpoint, I am not God. And I need community. Because as a community or as an organization, we are stronger when we are able to supplement our weaknesses. You will never see the strengths of people. And your strengths, people that are around you will naturally see your strengths. And you actually have to be deliberate with being comfortable and open with your flaws and your weaknesses. If you try to hide them, they will eventually be exposed. And when they're exposed, people want to pull you down for it. Beat them to the punch. I beat our staff to the punch by letting them know what my weaknesses are. And then I say, I need you to support me with this and not judge me on those. It's about authenticity. Kevin Cashman, some of you know, reading his book, a dear friend, amazing guy. He and I have lunches and we talk about authenticity. Where do we stumble? It's about humility. It's knowing that you don't know it all. That's when people trust you. People will trust you when you let them know you don't know it all. But who wants to be around a know-it-all? You know? Because you know that no one knows it all. And if you're trying to communicate how perfect you are, you will not engender trust in people. First is knowing your shadow. Second, honoring the Sabbath. I like S words, so shadow Sabbath. It really means, shadow means being self-aware. Sabbath, I'm talking about self-reflection. It's about temperance. It's about waiting, and it's about saying enough. So, in the idea of the Jewish Sabbath, about 3 minutes? 2 minutes? Oh, it's about 1:45. If you were plowing a field, Sabbath started when the sun went down. And when the sun went down, they put the plow down. It wasn't 6 o'clock. It wasn't 7 o'clock. It wasn't 5 o'clock. It was whenever the sun went down. And that varied. But you put the plow down, even if it was in the middle of the field, and you walked inside to light the Sabbath candles to have dinner. Because what it was teaching you is the field and the plow and the work will always be there. Your family and your meal will not always be there. Make sure you know what is most important. A couple years ago, I was burning out, and I was exhausted, and my well was dry. And I crafted out a pretty significant plan that I call fallow time. Fallow is the farming idea of letting land lie fallow here. And it means in January and in July, I unplug. I don't take necessarily vacation the whole time, but I don't go to meetings. I don't do emails. I read. I go out with people. I reflect. I take my staff out for coffees. But I really shift the way I'm working. Every morning, Tess and I, we get up very early. It's still dark out. We light a little candle. She's 5. She sits in my lap. I have my coffee. She has her cinnamon raisin toast at Pepperidge Farm. And we just sit and laugh and talk. We pray a little sometimes. Sometimes today we played tic-tac-toe. I beat her 3-0. It's about listening. Carving out time to listen. If you're not someone who pauses, who reflects and takes Sabbath, and it can be a 5-minute Sabbath walking from class to class. It doesn't have to be a Sunday. It can be an hour of unplugging on a Sunday afternoon. If you don't do that at some time in your life, in your daily grind, in your weekly grind, you will burn out. You will become dangerous. You will move too fast. You will forget. Final thought. I believe what is needed in companies, in organizations, is something that I am finding out that it is more who I am now at YF, at Youth Frontiers. I am no longer the CEO. I am by title, but I'm really the CSO, the Chief Spiritual Officer. My role is about creating trust, about creating community. That is what I think is the most important need in the business place today. It's CEOs that are more the CSO, that create trust, that create community, so you can leverage the talent, the skill of all the great people that that Youth Frontiers employs, or wherever you will be someday. These are some of the things that I think can differentiate you. As a St. Benedict's, St. John's student, alum in a few years, it's what will differentiate you from others. And it's what I believe you will be bringing to your workplace, to your families, to your love relationships, to your communities. And it's what's needed today. I want to thank you for letting me be here. I said I would end a minute early, and I ended a minute early. Honored to be here with you. Thanks for letting me just share thoughts at this late in the afternoon. If you have questions, I'll hang out for a little bit. Feel free to come on up to me. I know you got other things to do. Thanks.